Hey everyone, let's dive right into this explainer. If you've been scrolling through the headlines lately, you'd probably think the future of work is entirely about writing code, prompting artificial intelligence, or, building robots. But when we actually take a step back and look at the massive macro trends shaping our economy for 2026 and beyond, a completely different and frankly, a much more fascinating reality emerges. To hook you right off the bat, we've got to bust a massive myth. The jobs of the future aren't just about sitting behind a screen. Not at all. As we're going to see, the workforce of 2026 is deeply human and intensely practical. It's being driven by massive societal shifts, things like an aging population, a chronic housing shortage, and strict new compliance laws. The future workforce is physical, it's highly specialized, and it is absolutely necessary. So here is our roadmap for today. We'll be systematically looking at the future job market, starting with greening and building infrastructure. Then we'll cover caring for aging populations, AI and modern supply chains, safety, standards and training, and finally, we'll wrap up with your role in this exact economy. Let's move straight into our first megatrend, greening and building infrastructure. This entire sector is being completely driven by strict legal net zero mandates and a chronic housing shortage. What's really fascinating here is how a single piece of regulation can literally birth a brand new career overnight. Take past 2035, for example. When the government introduces a strict compliance framework like this to safely insulate older homes, it creates an immediate, desperate need for a retrofit coordinator. Suddenly, you have this highly specialized human acting as the absolute linchpin, overseeing complex whole-house energy efficiency overhauls. And this is a brilliant illustration of how our existing trades are evolving. We aren't tossing out manual work, we're upgrading it. The traditional plumber with a wrench is rapidly transitioning into a heat pump installer. This is a specialized technician fitting low-carbon hydronic heating systems just to meet those strict environmental building standards. So the crucial point here is that behind every single macro-level headache, there's a highly specialized human role popping up to solve it. Dealing with massive electrical grid bottlenecks? Well, we need grid and DNO application coordinators to navigate that crazy administrative maze. Facing intense legislation around damp and mold in housing? Enter the mold and damp diagnostic technician, literally using thermal imaging to pinpoint structural failures. And that massive transition to electric vehicles? That demands EV infrastructure coordinators to physically plan out all those charging networks. Okay, let's shift gears slightly to a sector being driven by a rapidly aging UK population and a really severe shortfall of human workers, caring for aging populations. Despite all our crazy digital advancements, there is a profound truth we just cannot ignore. Technology simply cannot replace human empathy. No way. You cannot automate the direct, compassionate, hands-on patient care that is required in hospitals, community clinics, and private homes. Because of this, we're seeing highly specialized roles forming to target exact needs. We're well beyond just general care workers now. We desperately need rehabilitation support workers to help patients regain independent living skills right after a hospital discharge. We need dementia care specialists to manage dedicated cognitive support plans, and palliative care assistants focused entirely on specialized, compassionate end-of-life comfort. These are the roles forming the true backbone of our future society. All right, let's pivot and look at how supply chain reshoring and AI integration are completely transforming modern business operations on logistics. It's so critical to understand that small and mid-sized businesses aren't out there building sci-fi robots. They are making incredibly practical hires. They're hiring an AI bookkeeper to manage ledgers and automate receipts. They need an AI compliance administrator to audit logs against strict regulations, and cybersecurity threat analysts to detect network anomalies. These folks use AI as a tool to cut software costs, clean up workflows, and manage strict data governance safely. We're also seeing a massive transformation in logistics. Just look at this shift. The old-school job of legally managing a standard diesel fleet is evolving into the fleet electrification coordinator. This person has to handle the massive operational jump to commercial EV infrastructure, meaning they are dealing with complex route scheduling, battery ranges, and charging logistics. It's a whole new ballgame. And even in those highly automated, super high-tech distribution hubs, packed with RFID inventory trackers and routing software, we still desperately need human technicians. Because when a robotic sorter breaks down or a sensor gets misaligned on a physical conveyor belt, you literally need a highly skilled human being with a wrench and a diagnostic tablet to get that physical supply chain moving again.
But we absolutely cannot build this new economy without training the workers and keeping them safe. Which brings us to vocational training and compliance.
There's a massive push right now for apprenticeships and retraining displaced workers, and that whole system relies entirely on mandatory standards. This is giving rise to a really important role called the independent endpoint assessor. Think of them as the external judge brought in at the end of an apprenticeship to run the final practical tests and interviews, basically ensuring a newly trained heat pump installer or AI administrator actually knows what they're doing on the job. Let's see how this actually builds step by step in the real world. It's a whole ecosystem. Step 1 is the learning phase. Step 2 brings in a work-based assessor right there on site. And Step 3 is that independent final judging. It takes an absolute army of specialized humans, from green tech assessors out on solar sites to clinical assessors verifying skills on hospital wards, all the way to data management assessors verifying workplace competency at every single step. And once those workers are trained, they absolutely have to be kept safe. Driven by intense legal frameworks and super strict insurance requirements, safety enforcement is creating some fascinating niche jobs. The Building Safety Act is driving a massive need for principal fire safety engineers on high-risk buildings. Environmental rules create SHEQ managers to oversee carbon reduction. And the boom in corporate remote work, that demands display screen equipment and ergonomics assessors to make sure people aren't literally destroying their backs working from their kitchen tables. So, how does this all connect back to you? Let's talk about your own career trajectory in this highly structured, ever-changing world. Take a hard look at these 5 macro demand areas and ask yourself, where do my skills actually fit? Which of these specialized paths perfectly aligns with your natural ability to adapt, learn, and problem solve? Are you drawn to the hands-on work of installing green tech? Do you have the deep empathy required for specialized care? Or maybe you have the analytical brain to manage AI workflows, oversee logistics, or audit safety standards. There is a place for almost every single aptitude in this new economy. The absolute core takeaway from this entire explainer is this. Technology is an amazing tool, sure, but the most vital jobs remain intensely, undeniably human. Whether you are using thermal imaging to diagnose building mold, auditing automated AI ledgers to ensure compliance, or providing deeply compassionate palliative care, the future absolutely demands highly skilled human intervention. The reality is, the blueprints for the future of work are already drawn. It isn't some vague, automated dystopia we're heading towards. It's a world that is completely desperate for specialized human skills, practical problem solving, and direct care. So, I'll leave you with this final thought to spark your curiosity. Now that you know exactly what the economy actually needs, where are you going to build your expertise?